What makes you want to talk about this? You've not talked about this at all until now. Why do you want to now talk about this, Colin?
That was an emotional day on the day that she died.
After decades of silence, Princess Diana's trusted driver has revealed secrets that could change everything we thought we knew about that tragic night in Paris. The world has never stopped mourning the loss of the beloved Princess of Wales, but one question has always lingered: what happened that night? Colin Tebbutt, the man closest to Diana, stayed silent for years. Now his emotional confession has surfaced, and it holds the power to rewrite history. This revelation adds a haunting new layer to the endless mystery surrounding Diana's final moments. What secrets has he kept hidden all this time, and why is he choosing to speak now? Let's dive deep into what happened that night, through the eyes of the man behind the wheel. August 30, 1997 started like any other day, but it would soon become one of the most unforgettable nights in history. Princess Diana, along with her companion Dodi Fayed, arrived in Paris after a trip along the French and Italian Riviera. The couple sought refuge at the Ritz Hotel, but peace was never an option for the most photographed woman in the world. Paparazzi lurked outside, their cameras ready to capture every moment. In a desperate attempt to avoid the relentless photographers, Diana and Dodi decided to leave the hotel through the back entrance, hoping to slip away unnoticed. It was a decision that would change everything. In the early hours of August 31, a black Mercedes-Benz sped through the streets of Paris. Henri Paul, the hotel's head of security, took the wheel, while Diana and Dodi sat in the back, and Trevor Rees-Jones, Dodi's bodyguard, sat in the front passenger seat. The car raced through the city, chased by paparazzi on motorcycles, each one determined to get the perfect shot. Speed limits became meaningless as the Mercedes hurtled through the streets at over 100 kilometers per hour. As the car approached the Pont de l'Arme tunnel, disaster struck. Eyewitnesses recalled the moment the black Mercedes lost control. Some reported seeing a white Fiat Uno in the tunnel, a detail that would later fuel countless conspiracy theories. In a split second, the Mercedes swerved, hitting the 13th pillar head-on, with a force so intense that the front half of the vehicle was destroyed. Silence fell over the tunnel, broken only by the crackling sound of the wreckage. Smoke filled the air as onlookers rushed to the scene, horrified by what they saw. Paparazzi, who had been chasing the car moments before, now stood frozen, their cameras capturing the aftermath of a tragedy instead of a scandalous moment. News of the crash spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the world was gripped by shock. How could this happen? Princess Diana, the people's princess, lay critically injured in the back seat. Paramedics arrived swiftly, but the damage was done. Dodi Fayed was pronounced dead at the scene, while Henri Paul's body was pulled from the wreckage moments later. Diana, still conscious but gravely injured, was rushed to the hospital. The world watched in disbelief as updates trickled in. Prayers poured in from every corner of the globe, but hope faded as the hours passed. When the news finally broke that Princess Diana had succumbed to her injuries, an eerie silence enveloped the world. Millions wept openly, struggling to comprehend the loss of someone they had never met but deeply loved. The crash wasn't just an accident, it was a moment that shattered hearts, sparked endless questions, and left a void that could never be filled. But what if everything we believed about that night wasn't the full story? Colin Tebbutt was more than just Princess Diana's driver. He was her confidant, protector, and someone who understood the weight of her world. For over 2 decades, he carried a burden too heavy to bear. The night Diana died, Colin wasn't behind the wheel, and that reality haunted him every day since. His absence on that fateful night left him with an unbearable sense of guilt, a feeling that time never erased. While the world speculated and mourned, Colin stayed silent, locked in his torment, replaying endless what-ifs in his mind. In his recent interview with Good Morning Britain, Colin's pain was evident. His voice trembled as he spoke, his eyes filled with memories too painful to revisit. "Yes, you always do feel responsible," he admitted softly, the weight of his words echoing through the studio. He wasn't there when Diana needed him most, and that thought consumed him. "I should have been there," he confessed, holding back tears. "But I wasn't." For years, he avoided the spotlight, choosing silence over speculation. But that silence wasn't peace, it was punishment. Colin's memories of Diana painted a picture of a woman full of life, humor, and compassion. He recalled their countless drives together, moments filled with laughter and genuine conversations. "She had a tremendous sense of humor," he said, a faint smile appearing through his sorrow. Yet even in these moments of warmth, the shadow of that night loomed large. Every memory of Diana brought with it the painful reminder that he wasn't there when it mattered most. The question lingered in his mind: could his presence have changed the outcome? For over 20 years, Colin avoided interviews, never wanting to add to the endless noise surrounding Diana's death. So why now? Why, after all these years, did he decide to break his silence? The world watched with bated breath as Colin shared his truth. Perhaps it was time to let go of the guilt, or maybe the burden had simply become too heavy. "I couldn't hold it in any longer," he admitted. His words weren't just confessions, they were a release of emotions he had buried for far too long. Colin's revelations weren't just about guilt, they were about love, loss, and loyalty. His silence wasn't indifference, it was a testament to his deep respect for Diana and her memory. As he opened up, it became clear that his pain wasn't just about the night she died, but about the years that followed. He lived with the agony of unanswered questions, the sting of what could have been, and the fear of what his revelations might bring. But Colin knew one thing: Diana deserved the truth, and so did the world. As the interview ended, the air was thick with emotion. Colin Tebbutt's words hung in the balance, leaving viewers with a sense of unease and curiosity. His silence was finally broken, but what he revealed was more than just guilt. It was a glimpse into the hidden truths of a night that changed the world forever. As Colin opens up, his words reveal more than just guilt, they reveal hidden truths. The world stood still when the news of Princess Diana's death spread. In the early hours of August 31, 1997, disbelief turned into heartbreak as millions struggled to process the reality. Outside Kensington Palace, the place Diana had called home, waves of people gathered, their silent tears speaking louder than words. Bouquets piled up by the hour, creating a sea of color that stretched as far as the eye could see. Teddy bears, handwritten notes, and candles transformed the palace gates into a shrine of love and loss. The scent of fresh blooms mixed with sorrow hung heavy in the air, capturing the raw emotion of a nation in mourning. The sight was overwhelming. Strangers stood shoulder to shoulder, united by grief for a woman they had never met but felt deeply connected to. Across the world, similar scenes unfolded. In Paris, where Diana took her last breath, people lit candles near the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, whispering prayers for the princess who had touched so many lives. In America, Australia, and beyond, the outpouring of sorrow was immediate and intense. Television channels interrupted regular programming, broadcasting tributes and retrospectives on Diana's life. News anchors struggled to hold back tears as they recounted the tragic event. Yet, amidst the global grief, the royal family's initial response sparked criticism. As the crowds grew outside Buckingham Palace, the absence of a half-mast flag drew attention. The monarchy, bound by tradition, was slow to react. Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Charles, and the young princes, William and Harry, remained in Balmoral, seeking privacy in their grief. But the public wanted more. They wanted to see their pain reflected by the royal family. The silence from the palace was deafening, fueling anger and confusion. Headlines questioned the royal family's humanity, while mourners demanded acknowledgement of their shared loss. When the royal family finally addressed the public, it was clear that Diana's death had shaken the very foundations of the monarchy. Prince Charles, despite his strained relationship with Diana, flew to Paris to bring her body home. The image of him standing solemnly beside her coffin, draped in the royal standard with an ermine border, was both poignant and surreal. Back in London, the Queen's televised address acknowledged the depth of the nation's sorrow, a rare moment of vulnerability from the monarchy. Diana's funeral on September 6, 1997, was a day etched in history. Over 3 million people lined the streets of London, while an estimated 2.5 billion watched from their homes worldwide. The sound of horses' hooves on the pavement, the slow tolling of bells, and the sight of Prince William and Harry walking behind their mother's coffin brought the world to tears. Elton John's rewritten version of Candle in the Wind echoed through Westminster Abbey, a haunting tribute to a life cut short. The song's lyrics, "Goodbye England's Rose," captured the collective grief of a generation. As the funeral procession made its way to Althorpe, Diana's final resting place, flowers were thrown onto the hearse by mourners who couldn't bear to let her go. The world had lost its princess, and the pain was immeasurable. But as the days turned into weeks and the flowers began to wilt, one thing became clear: Diana's death was not just a tragic accident in the eyes of many. Behind the public grief, unanswered questions kept growing louder. Princess Diana's death was a tragedy that shook the world, but in its aftermath, it also became a breeding ground for countless conspiracy theories. Almost immediately, whispers of foul play began to circulate, fueled by the chaotic scenes in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel and the mysterious details surrounding the crash. One of the most persistent theories centered around a white Fiat Uno seen by witnesses in the tunnel. This car, believed to have collided with the black Mercedes moments before the crash, vanished without a trace. Despite extensive investigations, the driver of the white Fiat was never conclusively identified, leaving an unsettling gap in the official narrative. Media speculation only added fuel to the fire. Some claimed that Diana's death was not an accident, but a carefully orchestrated event designed to silence the princess. Diana herself had expressed fears for her safety. In a letter written months before her death, she mentioned concerns that certain individuals were plotting an accident involving her car. This chilling prediction left many wondering if her death was truly accidental or the result of a deeper, darker scheme. Theories ranged from secret services to royal insiders, each story more disturbing than the last. Official investigations attempted to put these rumors to rest. The French investigation in 1999 concluded that the crash was caused by Henri Paul, the driver, who was found to have been intoxicated well above the legal limit. The British inquiry, Operation Paget, echoed these findings, emphasizing that Paul's impaired state and the paparazzi chase led to the fatal crash. Yet, public skepticism remained high. Many questioned the speed at which conclusions were drawn, the accuracy of the toxicology reports, and the lack of definitive answers about the white Fiat. The absence of CCTV footage from the tunnel only deepened suspicions. Adding to the mystery was the behavior of the paparazzi that night. While some attempted to help, others were seen taking photographs instead of aiding the victims. This fueled the belief that Diana's death was not just an accident, but a preventable tragedy, worsened by the relentless pursuit of fame and profit. Critics pointed to the fact that none of the photographers faced serious charges, leading to accusations of a cover-up. Enter Colin Tebbutt, Diana's trusted driver. For years, Colin stayed away from these swirling theories, choosing to grieve in silence. But as he broke his silence, his words brought new weight to these speculations. Colin's emotional recounting of the night Diana died and his thoughts on the official investigations added a layer of authenticity that was hard to ignore. He questioned the events leading up to the crash, particularly the speed at which the car was traveling and the circumstances that forced them into the tunnel. Colin's loyalty to Diana was unwavering, and his revelations hinted at doubts he had harbored for years. Colin's perspective also touched on the security measures that night. Why wasn't the princess provided with better protection? Why was Henri Paul, a man allegedly under the influence, allowed to drive? His questions mirrored those of millions around the world, keeping the debate alive even decades later. Colin's words didn't provide all the answers, but they reignited the conversation, making viewers question everything they thought they knew. Theories continue to circulate, each one more gripping than the last. Was Diana's death a tragic accident, or was it something far more sinister? As Colin Tebbutt shared his truth, the lines between speculation and reality blurred even further. One thing was certain: Diana's death remains one of the most controversial tragedies in modern history. Colin Tebbutt's words now add a haunting dimension to these endless questions. Colin Tebbutt's memories of the night Princess Diana died are etched in pain and sorrow. As her trusted driver, he rushed to the Paris hospital upon hearing the devastating news. The moment he arrived, the reality of the tragedy hit him like a wave. The hospital was surrounded by mourners, journalists, and security personnel, but Colin's only focus was Diana. He entered the room where her lifeless body lay, and the sight was overwhelming. The woman he had driven countless times, shared laughs with, and protected, now lay still, far from the vibrant life she once lived. His first instinct was to protect her dignity. The room, filled with silence and sorrow, offered no privacy from the prying eyes outside. Colin noticed people gathering on the rooftops nearby, peering into the room through uncovered windows. Driven by loyalty and love, he quickly found blankets and covered the windows, shielding Diana from the outside world one last time. The room became unbearably hot, but Colin didn't care. He went out of his way to bring fans to cool the space, a small but significant act of care that showed his deep respect for the princess. One moment, however, shattered him completely. As he turned around, the breeze from the fan caused Diana's eyelashes and hair to move gently. Colin froze. For a split second, it felt as if she was still alive, but reality struck him harder than ever. Overwhelmed, he had to turn away, fighting back tears that refused to be held in any longer. That image stayed with him, a haunting reminder of the heartbreaking loss. Colin's memories weren't just about the sorrow of that night, but also about his deep bond with Diana. He remembered her as someone full of life, with a kind heart and a playful sense of humor. Driving her around wasn't just a job for him, it was an honor. She was more than a royal figure, she was a human being he cared for deeply. In his interview, Colin's voice cracked as he recalled the countless moments they shared, moments that now felt painfully distant. His professionalism never faltered, even in the darkest hours. Yet the weight of that night broke him in ways few could understand. Colin's memories painted a vivid picture of love, loss, and loyalty. Viewers could feel his pain, his helplessness, and his unwavering commitment to Diana's memory. His vulnerability made it impossible not to empathize with him. Colin didn't just lose a passenger that night, he lost someone he admired, respected, and cared for deeply. Yet, his memories also raise an unsettling question: was this tragedy avoidable? Princess Diana's death left an unfillable void, not just in the hearts of millions, but within the royal family itself. The days following the tragedy were a delicate balancing act for the monarchy, struggling to navigate their grief while facing intense public scrutiny. Queen Elizabeth II, often seen as a symbol of stoicism, was criticized for her initial reserved response. The royal family's adherence to protocol seemed cold to many, as the world craved emotional openness. Yet, behind the palace walls, the grief was raw and real, especially for Prince William and Prince Harry, who had lost their mother far too soon. William, then 15, and Harry, just 12, were thrust into an unimaginable reality. The two young princes had to walk behind their mother's coffin during the funeral procession, a moment that remains etched in history. Years later, both William and Harry have spoken openly about the lasting trauma they endured. Harry, in particular, has shared how his mother's death led to years of suppressed emotions and deep mental struggles. In interviews and documentaries, he admitted that the loss left him feeling angry, lost, and overwhelmed, while William confessed that not a day goes by without thinking of his mother. Diana's legacy continues to cast a long shadow over the royal family. Her humanitarian work, her genuine connection with people, and her unwavering love for her sons have set a standard that still influences the monarchy. Prince William's commitment to mental health awareness and Prince Harry's advocacy for veterans and charitable work reflect the values Diana instilled in them. Even Meghan Markle's entry into the royal family was often compared to Diana's story, highlighting the enduring impact of the people's princess. Colin Tebbutt's insights provide a deeper understanding of Diana's relationship with her sons. He recalled countless moments when Diana would speak fondly of William and Harry, always putting them above everything else. Colin admired her warmth and charm, qualities that made her not just a princess, but a relatable figure to many. His memories painted a picture of a mother who was fiercely protective, loving, and determined to give her children a normal life despite the royal spotlight. Even today, Diana's influence is evident. Her sons have often drawn from her experiences, ensuring that her legacy remains alive through their work and personal choices. The royal family's public image, shaped in part by Diana's legacy, continues to evolve as they embrace modernity while honoring tradition. Diana's absence is felt in every milestone of William and Harry's lives, from their weddings to the birth of their children. But amidst this legacy, Colin's revelations bring us to one final, heartbreaking realization. Colin Tebbutt's revelations about Princess Diana's death shook the world to its core. After years of silence, his most shocking confession wasn't just about his guilt, he believed that the crash could have been avoided. Colin's voice trembled as he admitted, "I've always felt that if I had been there, things might have been different." These words were more than just an expression of grief. They were an indictment of the circumstances surrounding that fateful night. His belief that Diana's death was preventable casts a haunting shadow over the official narrative that has been accepted for decades. The emotional weight of Colin's confession is undeniable. He carried the burden of not being on duty that night, and that regret never left him. "I should have been there," he repeated, his eyes filled with sorrow. The question that lingers is one that many have asked since 1997. What if? What if the driver had been someone else? What if better security measures had been in place? Colin's words breathed new life into these questions, making viewers reconsider everything they thought they knew about Diana's death. His perspective challenges the conclusions drawn by official investigations. While the French Inquiry and Operation Paget attributed the crash to Henri Paul's intoxication and the aggressive paparazzi chase, Colin's insights add a personal, human element that official reports lack. He questioned the decisions made that night, from the choice of driver to the route taken. There were too many gaps, too many things that didn't sit right, Colin remarked. His bold statements reignite the debates that have never truly died down, forcing viewers to confront the unsettling possibility that Diana's death wasn't just a tragic accident. Colin's revelation also highlights the open wounds left behind. For Diana's family, friends, and millions of admirers worldwide, the pain never fully healed. His words serve as a painful reminder that the full truth about Diana's death may still be out of reach. The public's trust in the official narrative has always been fragile, and Colin's confession only deepens that distrust. Was there more to the story than what the investigations revealed? Colin's doubts, shared so openly, suggest that there might be. In his interview, Colin's raw honesty was both heartbreaking and compelling. His loyalty to Diana was evident in every word he spoke, and his regret was palpable. "I loved my job and I respected her deeply. Not being there that night is something I'll carry with me forever," he said, his voice cracking. These words don't just resonate, they haunt. They force viewers to confront the possibility that Diana's death was more than just a tragic end to a life full of promise. As Colin Tebbutt's voice echoes across screens, the impact is undeniable. His confession adds another layer to the complex, painful story of Princess Diana's death. It leaves the world grappling with an unsettling thought. If the man closest to her believes the crash was avoidable, then what happened that night? As the world listens to Colin's words, one question lingers. Will Diana's truth ever fully come out? Princess Diana's legacy remains as powerful today as it was during her life. Known for her humanitarian efforts, she championed causes often overlooked by others in her position. From her groundbreaking work with AIDS patients to her relentless campaign against landmines, Diana's compassion knew no boundaries. But beyond her public persona, she was a devoted mother who adored her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry. Her influence shaped them into the men they are today, carrying forward her values and commitment to making the world a better place. Even decades after her death, the world's fascination with Diana has never faded. Documentaries, books, and interviews continue to explore every aspect of her life, each new detail adding to her enduring allure. The circumstances surrounding her death have only intensified this interest. Colin Tebbutt's recent revelations add yet another layer to the endless questions that surround that fateful night in Paris. His words force us to reconsider what we thought we knew, challenging the official accounts and reigniting debates that have persisted for years. Does Colin's confession change how we view Diana's final moments? Was her death truly an accident, or is there more to the story than we've been told? These questions linger, unsettling and unresolved. Diana's life was one of grace, but her death remains shrouded in mystery. As we reflect on her legacy, we are left grappling with the haunting possibility that the full truth may never come to light. What do you believe happened that night? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to subscribe for more exciting upcoming videos.